Welcome to our deep dive on the U.S. presidential election.
Oh, this was him.
You all sent over a ton of articles about the Electoral College.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're ready to really decode this system.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more puzzling than a simple most votes win contest.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not just about who gets the most votes.
Absolutely.
Overall. It's about
strategy.
It's about swing states.
Swing states and that magic number.
270.
270.
Yes.
We'll break it all down for you today, so let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's unpack how candidates actually use this system to their advantage.
Okay.
Especially in those nail-biter states that can completely flip the outcome of the election.
Okay, so first things first.
Yeah.
Can we just acknowledge how crazy it is that millions of people could vote for a candidate,
Right.
but they'd still lose?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about those Electoral College votes.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a giant board game where each state is worth a certain number of points based on its population. These points, called electoral votes, come from a state's total number of representatives and senators in Congress.
Okay.
The candidate who grabs 270 of these points or electoral votes wins the presidency.
So someone could win the popular vote but lose the election.
Absolutely.
That's wild.
It is.
Tell me more about the system.
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
The U.S. election isn't one giant election.
Okay.
It's actually 51 separate elections happening at the same time.
Oh, wow.
One for each state plus the District of Columbia.
Okay.
And in most of these mini elections, it's winner takes all. That means even if a candidate wins a state by a tiny margin, they get all of that state's electoral votes. This is where things get strategic.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting people to vote for you across the entire country. It's about focusing on specific states.
It is, exactly. This is why you see candidates pouring resources into what we call swing states or battleground states.
Right.
These are states where the vote could go either way.
Gotcha.
Making them super valuable in this Electoral College chess game.
So for 2024,
Right.
which states are we watching as the major players in this electoral chess match?
We'll keep an eye on Arizona,
Okay.
Georgia, Michigan, Nevada,
Gotcha.
North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These 7 states alone hold a combined 93 electoral votes.
Wow.
That's a huge chunk of the 270 needed to win.
Okay, so that makes sense why candidates would spend so much time and money campaigning in those particular states. They really are the key to winning the whole game. But this system seems a bit outdated, doesn't it? It's over 200 years old. Didn't they have horses and buggies back then?
Yeah, you're not wrong. The Founding Fathers designed this system back when traveling across the country to campaign was a logistical nightmare. They wanted to ensure that the president was chosen by well-informed electors who could represent their state's interests, and it made sense in that context. But now it's led to a lot of debate about whether it still reflects the will of the people.
So what you're saying is that the Electoral College was designed for a time when communication and transportation were incredibly limited.
Yes.
And it aimed to balance power between the states and the federal government.
Precisely.
Okay.
But over time, as the U.S. grew and technology advanced, the system began to show some cracks.
Uh-oh.
The big one. A candidate can win the popular vote, meaning they get the most votes from individual people across the country, but still lose the election because they didn't snag enough electoral votes.
Wait, hold up. The person who gets the most votes can lose. Has that ever happened?
It's happened 5 times in U.S. history, actually.
Wow.
2 of them were pretty recent in 2000 with George W. Bush and in 2016 with Donald Trump. Both times, these candidates lost the popular vote but won the election because they secured enough electoral votes.
Wow. That seems almost undemocratic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't the person with the most votes win? I get that the Founding Fathers were dealing with a very different world.
Right.
But shouldn't we update the system to reflect the realities of today?
That's a question a lot of people are asking. It's a complex issue with valid arguments on both sides.
Right.
And to make things even more interesting,
Okay.
imagine this. What if we had a tie in the Electoral College? What if both candidates end up with 269 votes?
Oh, my gosh.
Right at the edge of that magic number.
Oh, my gosh.
What happens then?
Whoa, that's got to be some kind of constitutional crisis, right? Someone just pulls out a coin and flips it.
Right.
Heads your president, tails you're not.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the tension on election night.
Well, thankfully, it's not left to chance or a coin toss.
Okay, good.
If we have a tie, The House of Representatives steps in to choose the president from among the top 3 candidates.
Wow.
It's happened once in U.S. history, back in 1824.
So the House would decide the president. What about vice president? Do they get a tiebreaker too?
You got it.
Okay.
The Senate would choose the vice president from the top 2 candidates.
Okay.
So it's this whole other level of election drama highlighting just how complex this system can get.
Okay, so it's clear this Electoral College system is complicated.
It is.
And can lead to some pretty unexpected outcomes.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious, why haven't we updated the system?
Uh,
I get that amending the Constitution is a big deal, but surely, if enough people want to change it, it could happen, right?
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Oh boy.
It's not just about public opinion.
Right.
It's about navigating the intricacies of the constitutional amendment process,
Okay.
which requires a supermajority vote in both houses of Congress and ratification by 3/4 of the states.
So even if there was widespread support for changing the Electoral College,
Right.
it would still face a huge uphill battle to become a reality.
It would.
So what you're saying is that the Electoral College is likely here to stay for the foreseeable future, even though it has its fair share of critics.
It appears so. It's a system that sparks debate,
Right.
raises questions about fairness and representation, and ultimately reminds us that American democracy is a complex and evolving experiment. But like you said, it has its defenders, too. They argue that the Electoral College protects the interests of smaller states
Right.
and forces candidates to campaign nationwide,
Yeah.
ensuring that the concerns of voters in less populated areas are not drowned out by the sheer number of voters in larger states.
That makes sense. So the Electoral College isn't just about those nail-biting swing states. It's about balancing power between states, ensuring that the president has to appeal to a broader range of voters across different regions and demographics,
Right.
not just those in densely populated areas.
Exactly. It encourages a more national campaign strategy.
It seems like this system, designed centuries ago in a very different world, continues to shape and even distort the outcome of modern elections in fascinating ways. But I have to ask.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, we've seen that the Electoral College doesn't always align with the popular vote. It's designed to balance power between states, but does it truly ensure that every vote holds equal weight?
That's the question at the heart of the debate.
It's definitely something to think about as we head into the 2024 election. We've covered a lot of ground here today. How the Electoral College works, the winner-take-all system, swing states, tiebreakers. It's definitely a system with a lot of moving parts.
Indeed. We've explored the history of the Electoral College,
Right.
the arguments for and against it,
Yeah.
how it influences modern campaigns.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We'll continue our exploration in part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the history of the Electoral College and explore some of the key moments that have shaped its evolution over the years. Stay tuned.
We'll be back soon.
Welcome back to our deep dive on the U.S. presidential election.
Yes.
In part 1, we tackled the basics of the Electoral College, those winner-take-all scenarios,
Right.
and how candidates use this system to their advantage.
Exactly.
But how did we end up with this system in the first place?
Right.
Let's fire up the time machine and head back to the very beginning.
Buckle up. We're going back to 1787. The Founding Fathers are in the midst of creating a brand new nation.
Yeah.
Imagine the pressure. They're hammering out the Constitution, trying to figure out how all the pieces of this new government will fit together.
Yeah.
And one of the big debates is,
Yeah.
how do we choose a president?
So they're essentially building a system of government from scratch
They are.
and grappling with some pretty fundamental questions.
They were.
Were they thinking about a direct popular vote like we have for other elections?
That was one option on the table.
Okay.
But they were wary of giving too much power to the people.
Okay.
Remember, the concept of democracy was still pretty new, and in some ways radical. Plus, they had to consider the concerns of smaller states.
Okay. I can see how a straight popular vote might make smaller states feel like their voices wouldn't be heard.
Right.
I mean, if it were just about the total number of votes, wouldn't candidates just focus on campaigning in the most populated areas?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the Founding Fathers came up with the Electoral College
Ah.
as a sort of compromise.
Okay.
It was designed to balance the power between the states and the federal government,
Yep.
give smaller states a voice,
Right.
and create a system where electors chosen by the people
Right.
could make informed decisions about the presidency.
So it was a way to ensure that the president wasn't just beholden to the most populated areas,
Right.
that they had to consider the needs and interests of the entire country.
You got it.
Okay.
But there's another layer to this story,
Oh,
a much darker one that we can't ignore,
okay.
the issue of slavery.
Right. The Founding Fathers were trying to create a unified nation while also dealing with the deeply divisive and morally reprehensible institution of slavery.
Exactly. And this is where it gets complicated. At the time, enslaved people were counted as 3/5 of a person for the purpose of determining representation in Congress.
Right.
And this affected the Electoral College as well.
So the Three-Fifths Compromise,
Yes.
which gave Southern states more political power than they would have had otherwise based on their free population,
Yes.
also impacted how much sway they had in presidential elections.
Yes. It gave slaveholding states disproportionate power in presidential elections.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder that the Electoral College's origins are intertwined with issues of representation, equality,
Yeah.
and the legacy of slavery.
Right.
It's also something that continues to fuel the debate over its relevance today.
That's a powerful point. It seems like right from the start,
It was.
the Electoral College was shaped by compromise and the need to balance competing interests.
Absolutely. It was a product of its time. Now, fast forward through history.
Okay.
As the United States expanded westward, new states joined the Union,
Yeah.
and the Electoral College continued to play its role,
Right.
sometimes leading to some pretty close and controversial elections.
So as the country grew and changed,
Right.
did anyone ever try to reform or get rid of the Electoral College?
There have been numerous attempts, actually.
Okay.
In the 1970s,
Okay.
a proposed amendment aimed to replace the Electoral College with a direct popular vote system.
Okay.
Gained significant support in the House of Representatives,
Uh-huh.
but failed to get the required 2/3 majority in the Senate.
It seems like there's always been this tension between those who see the Electoral College as outdated and those who defend its role in balancing power between states.
That tension has only intensified in recent years,
Okay.
especially after the 2000 and 2016 elections,
Right.
where the winner of the popular vote lost the presidency.
Yeah.
Those instances really threw fuel on the fire of the debate about the Electoral College's fairness
Right.
and its potential to undermine the principle of one person, one vote.
So it seems like we're stuck with this system,
Yeah.
at least for now.
It appears so. But understanding its historical context,
All right.
including those darker chapters like the Three-Fifths Compromise,
Yeah.
helps us see how it has shaped the political landscape we have today.
It's a reminder that the Electoral College is more than just a set of rules for electing a president. It's a reflection of our nation's history, its complexities, and its ongoing struggle to create a more perfect union.
Well said.
Thank you.
But let's not get stuck in the past entirely. How about we bring this back to the 2024 election and see how the Electoral College is shaping campaign strategies right now?
Perfect. I'm ready to dive back into the present and see how the system is playing out on the campaign trail. Welcome back for the final part of our Electoral College deep dive. We've explored how it works,
Right.
its historical roots,
Uh-huh.
and its impact on today's campaigns. Now the million-dollar question. Should we keep it or kick it to the curb?
Ooh, that is the question, isn't it?
It is.
It's the debate that's been raging for centuries. And
Right.
honestly,
Right.
there are good points on both sides.
Yeah.
It's not a simple good versus bad situation.
Okay, so let's break it down. We've talked about how supporters of the Electoral College say it protects smaller states
Okay.
and forces candidates to campaign across the country. So,
They argue that it keeps a few big,
yeah,
densely populated states from calling all the shots.
right.
It ensures candidates have to appeal to a broader range of voters
Right.
across different regions and demographics,
Yeah.
not just focus on winning over a few big cities.
But then there's the other side. Those who say it's undemocratic
Right.
and can actually disenfranchise voters in larger states.
Exactly. Their big argument is that it's just not right for someone to win the presidency while losing the popular vote.
Yeah.
They point to the 2000 and 2016 elections as proof that the Electoral College can actually work against the will of the majority.
So it's a classic tug of war
It is.
between tradition and the idea of one person, one vote.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that there's no easy answer here.
You got it.
There isn't.
It depends on what you value most.
Yeah.
Preserving a system that's been in place for centuries,
Right.
or making sure the president is chosen by the most people,
Yeah.
regardless of where they live.
Let's say just for fun that we did decide to ditch the Electoral College.
Okay.
What other options are out there? How else could we elect a president?
Well, the most popular alternative is a direct popular vote system. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
The candidate with the most votes nationwide wins.
Okay.
No more worrying about electoral votes
Wow.
or swing states.
That does sound a lot simpler. No more candidates ignoring huge chunks of the country to chase those swing state votes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would make each vote truly equal, no matter where you live. Another idea is a proportional allocation system. Instead of winner-take-all,
Okay.
electoral votes would be split based on the percentage of votes each candidate gets in a state.
Okay. So if a candidate wins 60% of the vote in a state,
Right.
they get 60% of that state's electoral votes.
Exactly.
Instead of taking all of them.
That's it.
Gotcha.
It's a more nuanced approach that gives more weight to everyone's preferences,
Right.
even those who voted for the candidate who didn't win the state.
So instead of just focusing on winning states, candidates would have to try to win over as many voters as possible.
Yes,
Even in states that are likely to lean toward their opponent.
precisely.
Okay.
It would encourage broader, more inclusive campaigns.
Right.
But of course, no system is perfect.
Right.
Even these alternatives come with their own set of challenges and potential downsides.
Right. Changing how we elect the president is a huge deal.
It is.
Something that would need tons of discussion and agreement across the country.
Absolutely. It's not a decision to be taken lightly. It would reshape the political landscape and have ripple effects for years to come.
So as we head into 2024 and beyond, the future of the Electoral College is still up in the air.
It is. It's a question that will continue to be debated,
Right.
especially if we have another election where the popular vote winner doesn't become president.
It's a reminder that our democracy is always evolving.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to find that balance between tradition and progress,
Yeah.
between the ideals of our founding fathers and the realities of our modern world.
Well said. And no matter what you think about the Electoral College,
Yeah.
the important thing is to stay informed, participate in the process, and make your voice heard.
Absolutely. Every vote matters.
That does.
And every election is a chance to shape the future of our country. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the U.S. presidential election. We hope this helped you understand this complex and fascinating system.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. Until next time, keep learning and keep asking questions.